Call to or. Call to. Hello? Call to order for the Watertown City Council meeting for October 2nd of 2023. Please rise while Councilman Schutte leads us in prayer.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for this beautiful day, this new day to live and breathe and go about our business, go about our lives in this community that you've given us, that's been established for decades, Lord. And here we are tonight gathering to make decisions, to govern, to follow in the footsteps of others who have gone before us. And so tonight, Lord, I just pray that to give us wisdom and guidance as we make decisions, as we work through things. Help us to unite together as a team, not only in this council, but as a city, that we unite more together as a team in the weeks and months to come, and ultimately as a community, that there's unity as well, Father. I just pray for the spirit of unity to flow through this community. And we just pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Finance Officer Bob Zine, please call the roll.
Okay. I have Bueller.
Here.
Danforth.
Here.
Helene.
Here.
Jurens.
Here.
Peters.
Here.
Schutte.
Here.
Tupper.
Here.
Thank you.
Quorum is established. With that, the chair will entertain a motion to approve today's agenda. Motion made by Councilman Schutte, seconded by Councilman Bueller. Any discussion on that, Council? Hearing none, the motion is to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please now say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Now is the time for open forum. If anyone is here who would like to address the council on an item that is not on tonight's agenda, now is your time to do so.
My name is Deborah Gagne. I own the taxi ride in Watertown. Do I have to start over? Yeah. Hi, my name is Deborah Gagne, and y'all still make me nervous. I own the taxi cab in Watertown called Need a Ride, and I had an employee that sexually harassed one of my riders, and I had to terminate their employment. And because of that, he has applied to get a license of his own. But since I terminated him, I found out a way to do background checks, and he has a long history of domestic violence convictions. There was a trial that lasted 6 days in Colorado where he was accused of doing something sexually to somebody in his control. He was found innocent on that, but there's a history there. And I'm scared for the people in my community, for him to be out there picking them up when they're possibly intoxicated and hurting them. And there's nobody to protect them. So I'm asking you guys to do a better job at vetting all of us. I had a whole long list, but I can't talk anymore, and I think you know what I need. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Ms. Gagne. Gagne, sorry. Thank you for coming and addressing us. Is there anyone else who would like to bring something forward to the council? I'll close the open forum, and we will go on to item 9A, an approval of lease agreement with the Centric Care Rental LLC, doing business as Quest Car Rental to operate at the Watertown Regional Airport, paying the sum of 10% of gross revenue monthly to the city of Watertown. We will start by going to our airport manager, Rob Cyrus.
Go to Justin first.
Oh, well, should I?
Hello, Rob Cyrus, airport manager. So it's so we all know what happened back in when budget pulled out. We sent out the RFQ and we got one bid in. It was with Quest Car Rental here. They're in 2 locations, Alamos and one in Florida. With one bid, it's a much needed thing at the airport. People really like rental cars and they land, get to and from where they want to go. So that's what they're bidding for.
All right, Justin, do you have anything to add? City Engineer Peterson, sorry. I broke my own rule. I apologize, Council.
I'm going to defer to Lisa.
City Attorney Carrico.
There you go.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for council's consideration, we did present this contract with Centric to the airport board this afternoon. They did approve it, however, they did approve it with a change. You have the hard copies before you, and the highlighted portion is, I believe, on page 10. Number 5, right at the top of the page, basically changing or adding a additional option of termination at the discretion of either party, so long as they give 120 days notice. Given that this is a new rental, I don't know, I'm sure they've been in service for a while, but the airport board just wanted to give council that flexibility. If things don't work out, rather than argue about cause, is just to have a, and again, it goes both ways, so they could terminate as well if things don't work out for them here in Watertown. We hope that it does. And so they are recommending approval of this contract with that change.
Thank you very much. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the lease agreement.
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Tupper, seconded by Councilman Peters. Open it up for discussion. Councilman Tupper.
Airport manager, sorry, is this with a national car rental company, like Budget or whatever?
No, it is not. It's not a national, just in 2 locations, one in Florida and one in Colorado.
So it's more of a one-way rental?
Yes, and I actually talked to Budget today. They were also more of a one-way rental. They didn't like their own cars to go out. The only ones they let would go one way were when somebody came in one way, they allowed those cars to go back out.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilman Danforth.
Mayor, I'm just going to ask the question because I'm not sure who this should go to, but what kind of background check or checking into this company have we done to know how they're performing at these other sites? What kind of issues may or may not exist there?
We will open that up to whoever wants to take it.
I attempted to call last week and email and also called today. There was one listed in the RFQ, Alamosa, Colorado, got no replies and no responses as of yet. But I can follow up and let everybody know as soon as I get something back from them. I left a message with the airport manager in Alamosa, Colorado.
City Attorney Carrico.
Yes, one other thing to point out to council, given the nature of the questions, is this particular agreement also is non-exclusive, so we always have the capability of bringing in another car rental service.
Any further questions, comments? Councilman Tupper?
This would be for City Attorney Carrico. So when you say non-exclusive, does that also, there's 2 rental companies in town that I know of that are publicly owned and operated with that. Before, with the old contract with Budget, or whatever the name of the company was, they were not allowed on airport property. Does this eliminate that then, or?
So this non-exclusivity has to do with the lease situation of that secondary booth at the airport. So if they wanted to put in a bid and get that lease, they would be able to do so. And I think Rob can elaborate a little bit on that.
I wasn't here in the past, but I knew they were just out there, and it's in the ordinance, they can't operate out there without having a lease agreement with the airport of the city.
Before, I know they were times that they were told they were not allowed on the premises, that they would have to, and I know that for a fact because I had somebody call me, so, but not just the owners of that company, but they actually got ticketed while they were out there, so.
Any further questions or comments?
Mayor?
Yes,
If I-
Public Works Director Von Eye.
Yes, thank you. To Councilman Tupper's question, I think that I'll expand a little bit on the point Manager Cyrus just made. The reason that they can't operate their business off the airport property is simply because they don't have a lease agreement set up with us to use our airport property from a business aspect. And so a few years ago, when we went through this issue with Budget car rental coming on board, what had been happening in the past and what the FAA will not allow us to do is let our airport property be used free of charge for a private business's benefit, is essentially what it boils down to. I hope that helps make some sense to that question.
Yes, it does. Now that kind of explains the whole situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Jurens.
Where are they operating out of?
Director Cyrus.
Are you talking about this airline? They'll be operating out of the airport. The ones that put in the bid, they'll be operating out of the airport, north side of the airport.
All right, may I follow?
Follow up.
Mostly a comment. Like Randy said, there's only two other options in town. And budget was an important part of having a third option. These are not only used for our travelers that come into town, but there's business out there specifically that can expand this, and the need is needed. Hopefully, we hear more options coming in, but there's only so much demand.
Any further questions or comments, council? All right, hearing none, we will go to a vote. All those in favor will say aye, opposed say nay.
Aye.
Finance Director, or Bob Zine, please call the roll.
Okay.
Finance.
Bueller. Danforth.
Aye.
Helene.
Aye.
Jurens.
Aye.
Peters.
Aye.
Shetty.
Aye.
Tupper.
Right.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. We're on to item 10A, a first reading of an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Watertown for the West 145 of Lot 2, Block 4 of the Lakes of Willow Creek First Edition from C3 Highway Commercial District to I1 Light Industrial District. We'll go to our Community Development Manager, Brandy Hanton.
Thank you, Mayor. So let me get this pulled up here so I can show you guys the vicinity map. But as it was stated, this property is currently owned by J&J Land Sales, and it's zoned C3, Highway Commercial. And they're proposing to rezone it to I1 Light Industrial. This is in the Lakes of Willow Creek First Edition, which is just north of the city's ice arena, just for proximity there. So there is the existing Peterbilt business here on the west, and then this existing industrial business. I cannot recall what that business is again, but so what they're doing here is looking at doing a sort of land swap where Peterbilt will be able to maneuver their trucks on this portion of property that's zoned I1, and then they will swap so that the current owner of this I1 property will have the same amount of land in return. So that is why the proposal for the rezone is in front of you. I'll stand by for any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Chair will just open it up for discussion. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item in the audience? Anyone? If you'd like to, Mr. Paulson.
I'm just here to answer any questions. Colin Paulson with J&J Land Sales.
Okay, thank you very much. Open it up for council deliberation. Councilman Peters.
Maybe for community manager and on the lots to the south, are those residentially zoned right now, or what's the zoning? I'm looking here at this map that's within the agenda, so it would be south of 28th Street and south of Jeremy Avenue Northeast.
It's actually, this whole first edition is C3 Highway Commercial.
Okay.
And then once we get further to the north in this second edition, that's where you get into residential.
Okay.
Oh, and then this is county and then to the north.
That's the county there. That's the county there to the north?
Yep.
Okay.
Councilman Danforth.
Will this be replatted then to show the expansion of the, I think you called it the Peterbilt
Yes.
lot?
So that will all, basically, I'm not sure how they're conveying it. If they're going to do an easement, then they would not have to, then they wouldn't replat it. Now, they will replat this portion so that they're combining it, although it also could be a standalone lot because it does meet the minimum lot size. But the plan for them is that they will replat this portion into this existing lot, and then this little sliver will go with this lot, so that they'll replat the entire area. Now, if Peterbilt is to get this land actually conveyed to them, and it's not just by easement that is memorializing access, then you'll have to see this in front of us again for rezone to C3 highway commercial. So it would be, there's not like a net loss or gain in the zoning district. However, that was not what we're looking at. That's not what was petitioned. So they will have to replat. Sorry, the long answer.
Thank you.
We got there.
Community Development Manager Hanton, please remind everyone how this came out of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So there were 2 against and 5 for Plan Commission. Just the concern with the people that voted no was over just the increasing the I-1 district and the question of near in the proximity of our ice arena. So that's where those votes came in. I'll say too, though, the comprehensive land use plan does show this area staying industrial, and that's largely because there is the existing industrial business out there, but it actually showed it expanding for this area over to 31st as well.
Any further council deliberation? Any comment?
From me?
Mr. Paulson? No? All right, we will get another crack at this in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
We'll go to item 11A, an application for a special malt beverage retailer's license to the Watertown Convention and Visitors Bureau for the American Cornhole Organization's Majors Tournament at the Cottington County Extension Complex on Friday, October 13th until 6 p.m. on Saturday, October 14th. For more information, we will go to our Finance Officer, Kristen Bobzien.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. The applicant has provided adequate proof of insurance and paid all fees. The notice of hearing was published in the paper. This is their second time doing this, so it's not new, and I think everything went good last time. So if there's any questions, I can try to answer them. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I will open up a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to testify on this item? Or just tell us a little bit more about the cornhole tournament? You got an open mic, you might as well plug a nice event.
Hello, council and staff. My name is Lindsay Stengel. I'm the Director of Marketing with the Watertown CVB, also known as Visit Watertown. So this, as Kristen said, this is the second year that we are hosting the American Cornhole Organization's Season 19 tournament. It is it's a point. How they do it is in order to get into the championships, you have to earn points. So this is one of the stops for earning those points. Last year, we saw 50 registered teams. We're estimating around 100 to 120 room nights. I did run it through the economic impact calculator that we have, and the direct visitor spending from last year was around $52,000, and indirect spending of $75,000. So we hope to see more spending this year, but yeah, we provide concessions at this tournament, and County Fair is helping out with that this year.
Great, thank you very much. I'll open up for council action. Do I have a motion to approve the application? So moved. Motion made by Councilman Bueller, seconded by Councilman Schutte. Open it up for council deliberation. Any questions or comments? Councilman Tupper, did you have something?
Yeah, but Lindsay got away too soon, so come on back up here if you would, please.
Marketing Director Stengel, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, Director of
Thank you, Mayor.
Director of
Marketing
Marketing.
and
Right.
Business Development.
So when you say teams, there's two-person teams, is that what it is?
Yes.
So-
Well, it depends on the category that they're playing. So there are singles as well.
Okay.
So
it's going to bring in 100, 150 people probably, hopefully more
hopefully
this year.
yeah. And we're pushing for local participation out as well. So if anyone wants to play, let me know.
I think I'll have to pass on that one. But I suppose I could go out there and make a fool of myself, but wouldn't be the first time. But so I mean, it's possibly going to bring in a couple hundred people to town, and I suppose a lot of them bring family members and stuff like that. So
Yes, that's
which is
correct.
great for the community.
Yeah.
I wish they could come up with a better name for it, but it is what it is. So, but I guess that was my only question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Jurens.
Director Lindsay Stangle.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Anything we can do as a city, as a council, to expand this in the years to come to make it a more attractive stop? This is getting big, by the way.
I think a lot of the weight falls on our shoulders as far as promoting it, but I think I've noticed in our town that word of mouth goes far. So if you can even just tell your neighbors, tell your friends that we have this tournament in town, I think that would be helpful.
Councilman Tupper.
Is this open to the public for public viewing, or?
Yes, yeah, all skill sets are welcome. Yep.
Also, I would be welcome.
Yes. You do have to become a American Cornhole Organization member. I think the lowest tier of membership is $20. So.
You have to be able to make it to the whole ring. You have to be able to get there. I can get to the other board.
All right. Any constructive comments? Council. Okay, hearing none, the motion is to approve the application. All those in favor will say aye, opposed nay. Finance Officer Bob Zine, please call the roll.
Okay, Bueller, Danforth,
Aye.
Helene,
Aye.
Jurens,
Aye.
Peters,
Aye.
Shuddy,
Aye.
Tupper.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Item B is an approval of a resolution levying assessments on of the sidewalk improvements installed in conjunction with the 3rd Avenue Northwest reconstruction project. We'll go to our city engineer, Justin Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. This resolution, well, in December 2021, the council approved the resolution necessity for 3rd Avenue sidewalk improvements. 3rd Avenue was constructed in 2022 and then completed this spring. And then this is the last step, this resolution of assessment. It's the last step to of the process set up by South Dakota Codified Law. We sent out certified letters, and we have received receipt of all but one. So,
Thank you very much. I will open up a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to address the council on this issue? I'll close the public hearing, open it up for council action. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution? Motion made by Councilman Danforth, seconded by Councilman Peters. Open it up for discussion. Council? All right, the motion is to approve the resolution. We're just going to do a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item 12A is an approval of a resolution authorizing staff to apply for the Transportation Alternatives Grant in the amount of $520,000 for the Lake Compesca Bike Trail Phase 2 project. City Engineer Peterson, you're back up.
thank you, Mayor. As you said, this resolution is to apply for the Transportation Alternatives Grant, or TA grant, for segment 2 of the bike trail. And segment 2 is here on the south side of the lake. Just some history of the Lake Compesca Bike Trail. Phase 1 was completed in 2021. Phase 4 on the northwest side of the lake was completed prior to that in 2019. Phase 3A and 3B are set for, well, we're planning for construction in 2024. These two are with the DOT at this point, just kind of finalizing all the items before it goes out to bid. But we expect construction in 2024. But for this resolution, this is specifically for segment 2, planning for construction in 2026, and this what we call Phase 2A is through Sandy Shore. The Game Fish and Parks is a separate contract, and we're hoping to kind of match them up roughly about the same time, assuming that the city gets approval of the grant and Game Fish and Parks sets their timeline the same. I'll stand by for questions.
Thank you very much. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the resolution. Motion made by Councilman Bueller, seconded by Councilman Schutte. Open it up for council action, or council questions and comments. Councilman Peters.
Assistant City Engineer Peterson, is this contingent on the grant, meaning would we need the grant to move forward with it?
Yes, I would say so, yeah.
That was a follow-up question. Is there any way to move up the timeline? I'm looking at the date in 2026. That's a ways away yet.
The way these TA grants work, it's generally a 3-year process. So we apply now, get approval next year, start design into 2025, and then construction is 2026. It's really set by the DOT schedule.
Mayor, follow-up. So what's the affiliation with GFP? What do we need their approval for? I'm assuming since it's by the lake.
We don't need their approval for this particular project. I just mentioned that the segment 2A that's shown on the map here is going to be funded and built by the Game Fish and Parks.
Okay.
Any further questions, council? Councilman Jurens.
This is a hot topic for a lot of people in our city. They're going to be a little disappointed in 2026. I know Councilman Peters asked any way this can be moved up. What are the options for moving it up?
Let's get an answer to that first, Councilman Peters is directly off of that. Let's get an answer to that with our city assistant engineer Peterson.
We can ask to move it up. That's basically it. We can ask, assuming we get approved for the grant, we can ask, see if we could accelerate the project. Like I said, it's really dependent on the DOT schedule.
Councilman Peters?
So to move this up, I'm just thinking outside the box here a little bit. Can we, as a community, if we know we're approved, and I don't know what the approval time is, but let's say we apply, we're approved, and we know we're approved, can the city front those dollars to start construction earlier, knowing we're going to get reimbursed with those grant dollars later? I agree with Councilman Jurens. 3 years away. We're thankful for the grant. We're thankful for the opportunity, but if we can move that up, I think we should probably figure out a path to do so.
I was going to ask the exact same question.
Yeah.
Is that a possibility? Finance
Mayor.
Officer Bob Zine? Our City Manager Mack, did you want to say something?
I was just going to comment, we can certainly have discussions with the DOT. Oftentimes, grants like this do not allow you to spend the dollars ahead of time and then get reimbursed. We can certainly check into that. The other alternative is that we don't apply for the grant and the city funds the project on its own, which I would not recommend. Sometimes we are just at the mercy of these agencies that are covering, a significant portion of the costs of these projects.
City Engineer Peterson?
Just kind of note, I forgot to mention the grant is, we're proposing local share would be 20%, and then the grant would be 80%.
Thank you. Finance Officer Bob Zine?
I was just going to same thing Manager Mack said, is that the only option would be if they would write the grant agreement to allow. Normally, there's a shorter window between when you've spent the money and when you can ask for reimbursement. So we'd have to look into how we could get the grant paperwork done with the state. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Schutte, did you have something?
Sure. I guess it would be worth looking into. It doesn't cost us anything just to look into those options. So I appreciate those questions that other councilmen have been asking and see what we can do with that.
City Attorney Carrico, it would be my interpretation that we could pass this approval tonight without running into any problem. I think that the council would generally be in support of seeing if we can't move up this timeline, but we obviously don't want to make the process slower by not approving this tonight. But would it be your interpretation as well that we could pass this and then still perhaps work on exploring if we could make this faster?
Yes, Mayor, that's possible, and I did consult with the city engineer just to make sure, assistant city engineer, to make sure that we weren't missing a deadline of some kind for the grant, and he indicated we have time, so.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor,
Public Works Director Von Eye.
just quick add some more context to those questions. I'd liken this to our bridge improvement grants, the big program that we apply for funding through, or the transportation master plan grants, or any other kind of master plan programs. One of the reasons for what's being acknowledged as an extensive timeline here tonight is the design phase and the review and the checkoffs that the state requires for any of these kind of projects for these grant programs. And generally, a lot of that is also driven from the federal level as well. You know, like our bridge improvements, there's federal highway administration requirements that we have to make sure the state is adhering to, that they then pass down to the local level as far as those checkoffs. Some of that time gap includes environmental assessments. It's the plan development, the actual assembly of the construction plans and specifications for the work, and all that being reviewed and checked off, not only at the local level, but at the state level. And then subsequent to that, going out to bid on a bid timeline that falls on the state's schedule and calendar, sometimes can delay it a few months as well. But all that said, absolutely, we can ask these questions to the state. I just wanted to give a little bit more context there, that it's unlikely that we see much of an improvement on that timeline, because once we're in line and in the hopper with these grants, we're in the line and in the hopper with where we fall, and in competition with everybody else that's seeking this money. So hopefully that helps provide a little more context behind the reason behind the time gap there.
Thank you. Councilman Danforth.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to ask questions, and Mayor, you can direct who can answer them. One of my curiosity questions is on the Game Fish and Park section of this. Is that my understanding, if I'm interpreting this correctly, that goes from the west and goes into and through the park? So my question is if I go there and I want to go in and swim, I have to pay to get into the park to go swim at the beach. I'm assuming these people aren't going to have to pay to use and access through the park. So that's a statement. So who is the owner of that section long-term and responsible then for maintenance? Is that continue to be the GFP, or is it ours after it's built?
Good question. And the park in question is Sandy Shores State Park, just for anyone who's watching that doesn't know. I'll open that up for whoever wants to handle it. Maybe Public Works Director Von Eye, if you're on. Did you hear the question?
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman Danforth. So for the state's portion through Sandy Shores Campground, and then also further to the west, the state also owns that chunk of land there on the kind of southwest corner of the lake. That would, my understanding is that would remain the state's property, and it would be their segment that they would construct with their dollars. I don't know that with 100% certainty, but that is my understanding. And unless Justin knows any more detail than that, we can otherwise follow up to confirm my understanding and get that feedback back to the council accordingly.
Engineer Peterson, did you want to add anything on that?
That was actually my assumption as well, is that it would remain Game Fish and Parks.
Councilman Danforth?
Yep, thank you, Mayor. again, curiosity question, but we've talked about completion of this trail around the lake, which has been very problematic for a lot of reasons over the years. But as we look at the two phases that are now scheduled, that the Phase 2 and Phase 2A, we've talked about them again for years. What is it that prompts the point at which we go out and ask for the grant, knowing that years ago we had to do something down there? Is it funding availability and how they divvy it up at the state level? Is it the fact that maybe we didn't have our design answers? What is it that, because of the years of discussion, that now in 2023 we're going to go out and ask for a grant, if that makes any sense, versus why wouldn't we have done that before, knowing something's going to occur in there? So that's my next question.
We'll open it up. Public Works Director Von Eye.
Yeah, I think probably my best answer I give to that is years ago when we started this concept of closing this bike path around the lake, these grant dollars, there's only so much available on an annual basis. And when the state and we present a master plan to them on what our full connection might look like, we then began to had to whittle it down on a per phase basis, so that one, for funding purposes, so that the state wasn't likely to approve funding for one fell swoop of a large amount of pathway around half the lake, for example. So we then had to phase it back into segments that were acceptable through the grant program, but then also feasible in the construction seasons and time and availability to have them actually constructed. So I think that's one of the big reasons why it appears, well, not appears, but why the fact is that it's been so long since these discussions initiated. Again, it's all falling into the hopper and into the cycle of these grant programs. Justin touched on earlier phases. I think it's 3A and 3B, that or 3B and 3C. I forget all the phase segments as they're labeled, but on the west side of the lake there, that northerly one was initially applied for. And then when we brought the southerly one.
Oh, we lost our Public Works Director. Public Works Director down. City Engineer Peterson, would you mind taking it from there?
Yeah, we actually applied for that northerly section, the Phase 3A in 2020. Did not receive the grant initially. We reapplied, got the grant, then we applied for 3B, got the grant, and now they're kind of being built together. I think where Heath was going with that was that we are competing with these dollars statewide, and so that initial, when we didn't get that initial grant, it kind of set the schedule back slightly.
Councilman Peters?
Probably a question for Engineer Peterson or Frozen, Mr. Public Works Director. What happens if these costs increase? Like, we're applying for the grant today for $520,000, but it's not going to be completed until 2026. Well, we know what happens with inflation for 3 years. We're going to be seeing much larger numbers by then, by completion. So, a couple questions. One, what is the cap of the grant? And then if it goes too high, or if it doesn't go any farther than 520,000, I guess this is more of a comment than a question, but I would be inclined to have a conversation about the city just paying for this now versus waiting for 3 years and finding out it now costs double what we're seeing now, and then we say, well, we should have paid for this 3 years ago just with cash. So I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just throwing the idea out there. But if you could clarify what the cap is on the grant, that would be helpful.
City Engineer?
Thank you, Mayor. When the city, if and when the city receives the grant, they put a cap on it. Anything above that cap, the city becomes responsible for paying for. That makes.
Did you have follow-up, Councilman Peters?
Yeah, maybe just a suggestion. Well, it's good to know. Thank you for that information. And I guess just as a point of caution, you know, for the council, what happens if we come back here after we apply for the grant and it doubles? We're looking at, you know, triple what we're putting in now at the 104,000. So just something to consider.
Councilman Danforth, I apologize. I kind of cut you off.
Yes, you did, Mayor.
Sorry. My apologies.
And I wasn't even frozen like
Yeah.
Heath was. But this is just a general question, because I get asked this a lot. The two questions I get asked, as Councilman Jurgens has said, is that one is, when is this going to get done? Well, now we at least have an idea that we can share with the public. But the other is, where is this going? You know, we know we got a road. For example, on the west side, you got 3A, 3B. You got the south side, whatever those 2A, whatever they are. But specifically, where are they going? Are they going on the lake side of the road? Are they going on the non-lake side of the road? People are wondering, when does that get finalized and determined and communicated to the public so they have an idea physically where this is going? These sections are going, is probably a better way to put it.
Engineer Peterson?
Thank you, Mayor. Phase 3A and 3B, they are on the west side of, I guess that would be South Lake Drive. Segment 2, or 2 to be this blue section here, this is one that we're applying for, or proposing to apply for. It will be on the south side, so it will be the non-lake side of South Lake Drive. The green section, again, that's being constructed by Game Fish and Parks. They may or may not run it through they may run it around the park there, but it'll be through their land.
And did we, excuse me, don't want to cut off anyone at the council. Did we get an answer as to, let's say if a pedestrian or a biker is going through that loop and it's Game Fish and Parks and Sandy Shore, because you do need a permit to get in there. I know that that's, you know, them who's going to be building it, but it does, I just want to make sure that it will continue to be a City of Watertown asset and not just something that you have to pay a park pass to in order to use. City Manager Mack?
Mayor.
Yep, City Manager Mack.
You know, we can certainly have the conversation with GF&P on what their intentions would be for usage of that trail. These are great questions for me to pass along to our Park and Rec Director, who has a very good relationship with GF&P and has worked closely with the grant administrator for these projects. But it's not an answer that we have for you this evening.
Thank you. And I'm sure that it's not Game Fish and Parks' desire to cause a problem with that, but just wanted to make sure. Councilman Jurgens?
I can only go on experience here, and they could change their mind, but for 18 years, I've burned through there along with neighbor kids and not had an issue. They will stop you if you're on in your car, though. The camp manager, the front, you know, it's pretty much regulated there, but the bikes, they just kind of let us go through. So not sure if that's going to change, but hey, we'll let them decide. The question is, Danforth, Councilman Danforth, thank you. It looks like everything's going to be pretty close to being done by next year. There is a trail down through Game Fish and Parks that's much safer than the road right now that we've used for years in that area. It's not for a road bike, but for the off-road bikes, it's pretty easy to get through. But that little stretch there that Councilman Kyle has the phase 2.
Councilman Peters.
I know. I'm new. Let me through. That is a dangerous, interesting little area, just like the rest of it is. So I think we need to reiterate, this isn't just for the bikers. Mm-hmm. You talk to the runners, you talk to the long distance runners, you talk to the road races, the numerous ones that go around there in the winter, and they are watching this also very closely. You get a little bit of fog on a morning when there's a road race, and the runners are like, they're scared, to use kind of a scary word. All right.
All right,
Over
thank
now.
you. Any further comments or questions, council? Just wanted to reiterate what I believe is the general will of the council is seeing if we can find a way to speed this along would be met with much enthusiasm on behalf of the council. I would also just like to say, just to point it out to the people that part of the reason why sometimes bike trails or trails can take a long time is, you know, not to say that this is an insignificant stretch here, but $624,000 roughly to build just that stretch is what we're plotting, and that kind of money should not be spent without planning and forethought, but also to show the people that we are investing in the infrastructure that hopefully brings quality of life, but it is not cheap. So the motion is to approve the resolution. All those in favor will say aye, opposed nay. Finance Officer Bob Zine, please call the roll.
Okay. Bueller. Danforth.
Aye.
Helene.
Aye.
Jurens.
Aye.
Peters.
Aye.
Shetty.
Aye.
Tupper.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Item B is an authorization for the finance officer to transfer surplus funds from the Urban Renewal Fund and the Upper Big Sioux Fund. We'll go to said finance officer, Bob Zine, for more information.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, in front of the council is, we have a couple special, these are considered special revenue funds. To be a special revenue fund, they have to be designed for a specific purpose. It's different than the general fund. So the Urban Renewal Fund is part of when we did the Urban Renewal District. There's been no activity in that fund since 2020. The last action that group kind of took was the special assessment that if the downtown park was not constructed, those were paid back. It was constructed. So those dollars are still sitting in this fund with no one to really control the use of it. So the suggestion is to transfer those dollars to the Park and Rec, as that is the fund and department that could be responsible for the downtown park and kind of that whole area. The Upper Big Sioux Watershed Fund was actually established, it was a requirement. When we went for the EPA grant, the requirement is to start a separate fund to keep track of those dollars. Those dollars have since went on, they've been well spent. A lot of this money has come from transfers from the city, transfers from the municipal utilities, contributions from the Lake Kapeska Group and Lake Pelican Group. So there's no real tie to these funds. And after we kind of, Roger retired, we decided that we were going to transfer that position to engineering. So that's why the suggestion is to take these dollars, transfer them to the general fund to help operate that position. So if there's any questions, I can answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Finance Officer Bob Zine. City Manager Mack, did you want to add anything on that? It just looked like.
Just that Finance Officer Bob Zine and I have had several conversations about this, and it is appropriate, and the timing is good for this as we're preparing the 2024 budget.
All right, thank you. And just to explain to the public, anyone who is listening, the Roger that our finance officer referred to as Roger Foote, the former head of the Upper Big Sioux River project. I'm not sure exactly what the full title was, but he retired, and then after much conversation with the state and other entities, including the Lake Kapeska District, we have decided that we would roll that position into a city position, and that has been advertised, but we have not received an applicant to fill that position lately. City Manager Mack looks like she wants to say something.
Actually, I'm sure that our Public Works Director would rather share this, but we have actually conducted interviews and made an offer to an applicant, and I believe they'll be starting possibly this week or next.
All right, fantastic. So good news. All right, anything else? So Chair will entertain a motion to authorize the transfer. But I first have to take an action. Or did you, I mean, okay, yeah, but I need to take official action. So Councilman Tupper is forwarding it. Do I have a second? seconded by Councilman Shoddy. Councilman Danforth.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So, just so the people that, well, first of all, Finance Officer Bob Zine did a great job answering my questions today, as you always do. Thank you. But probably the bigger question for me was the urban renewal dollars. And there was a commitment years ago, several years ago, about project-specific dollars and then that taxation. And my understanding here, and what I'm really looking to do is to communicate this to the public as it relates to the urban renewal group, is that these are the dollars that were taxed in that district for the intent of use for the building of the park, correct? And thus, we're transferring it, but that transfer is allowing us then to use those dollars for their intended purpose. Is that correct?
That's correct. I think the last assessment was only around 30,000, so there is a little bit more. Some of that is just interest and some other things that go into the revenue. The other thing I will say, not only with the downtown park, but the parks does maintain the flowers and everything that is kind of in the downtown area. So that's why I think the suggestion was to give it to instead of giving it to the general fund, was to give it to the Park and Rec Fund because they have a lot of operations downtown, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Tupper.
City Finance Officer Bob Zine, is there still a revolving loan fund for improvements in downtown?
That was actually turned over to the Watertown Development Company. I think it was a couple years back. We took all those dollars and we gave it to them, and they have been kind of operating that loan. So the applications and everything go through them now.
Follow up?
Yep. So that's, the old fund is totally into the WDC, and that is still available though, and it's in a revolving loan?
That's correct.
Low
Yep,
interest.
the revolving loan fund is still operating through them.
So, and we don't really have an urban renewal board anymore, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? I would like to say something. I am okay with the transfer. I have never been a fan of the Urban Renewal Fund. I voted against the taxation for the Foundation Plaza when I was a councilman, and I think that the business owners are okay as long as we make sure that this money is spent to make downtown better. And that's why I want to just make this public that the flowers is something that I have been working on with a lot of the business owners, and largely it's received extremely well by the business owners and the public, but half of the cost of the flowers is paid for by the businesses as well, and not every business does that. And it doesn't extend throughout all of downtown. It definitely doesn't extend to the west. I just want to make sure, and I know that I've already talked with City Manager Mack about this, and our Parks and Recreation Director Roddick about this as well, about flowers, and we have a plan for next year as well to perhaps expand the flowers and also take the money that we were spending on flowers on Highway 81, because that is not safe anymore, and then putting that money also in flowers and beautification of downtown. So as long as that's where the money goes to, is to help downtown, then I'm okay with it. And it's also really good news about the Big Sioux River position, and Lake Compesca position, so thank you for that. The motion is to authorize the transfer of funds. All those in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. Finance Officer Bob Zine, please call the roll.
Okay, Bueller. Danforth.
Aye.
Helene.
Aye.
Jurens.
Aye.
Peters.
Aye.
Shoddy.
Aye.
Tupper.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Item C is an authorization for the purchase of 3 replacement vehicles for the Public Works Department in 2023, supplementing the budget in 23 and eliminating their expense from the planned purchases in the 2024 budget. City Engineer Peterson, please illuminate us.
Thank you, Mayor. This authorization is to replace 3 vehicles for the Public Works Department. There's one in engineering that's 22 years old, one in community development that's 12 years old, and one in the airport that is 19 years old. These are planned purchases for 2024, and but because of availability and typically long lead times, We're proposing to purchase these vehicles now and supplementing the 23 budget, and then their expense wouldn't be part of the 24 budget. With that, I'll stand by for questions.
Thank you very much. Chair will entertain a motion to authorize the purchase of these vehicles. Motion made by Councilman Schutte, seconded by Councilman Bueller. Let's open it up for council deliberation. Any questions and comments? Anyone? All right. Hearing none, the motion is to authorize the purchase of the vehicles. Since there was no comment, we will just do a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We're on to City Council member announcements and introduction of topics for future discussion. I'd like to open it up by first inviting the public to the manufacturing parade, which is tomorrow downtown Watertown at 4 p.m. I think it starts at the IC Church and it goes through downtown, and we have at least a dozen local businesses that are going to be participating in this. This is part of National Manufacturing Week, and it is to celebrate some of the good businesses that we have in town, and that parade kicks off at 4 tomorrow in downtown. I would also like to make an announcement that the Governor's Office of Economic Development and the Department of Social Services, along with the City of Watertown, are working together to provide a two-phase funding opportunity for our community to help solve the childcare challenges in Watertown. And there is funding available, but in order to access that, we have to go through this process of coming up with official asks and then bringing that forward. So the City of Watertown is inviting concerned community members to attend a meeting on Friday, October 13th from 10 a.m. to noon at Lake Area Technical College, room 202. Enter through door 2A. And this is part of the efforts that the City of Watertown is doing to address the challenges in attracting employees to Watertown and also retaining them, because childcare is easily, along with housing, a top issue for anyone who is looking at moving to Watertown or staying here. And we need to address the childcare situation. So in order to do that, we are having this meeting on Friday, October 13th in Lake Area Technical College, room 202. And this is in the Coddington Connects Child Care Action Team has been started, and this consists of the City of Watertown, the Watertown Development Company, the Watertown Community Foundation, Lake Area Technical College, and the Mother of God Monastery are all part of this as far as right now. And I hope that the community will also be part of it and come forward and help us come up with ideas to address the child care need in this community. Those are my announcements. Does anyone else have anything? All right, City Manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. A few things. Just a reminder that next Monday is Native American Day, and City Hall will be closed, which means that our work session is scheduled for Tuesday the 10th, starting at 4 p.m. It will be a pretty full agenda. We'll talk about snow removal. It's getting close to that time of year. We'll have a sales tax presentation. There will be a presentation on street facility, where we're at, next steps, and recodification. Additionally, here in the coming days, either later this week or early next week, you should receive a draft copy of the manager's proposed budget for review prior to our budget hearings on the third week of October.
All right, thank you very much. There is no reason to go into executive session, therefore the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Councilman Tupper, seconded by Councilman Danforth. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, the motion is to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Good night and God bless you, Watertown.